Tonight, we continue the Hard Hat series where we shed light on the blue collar workers of America. In this episode, my good friend, Mr. Jason Burch, a lineman with TVA, hailing from the great state of Mississippi, discusses the job opportunities and the grit that it takes to keep the world turning. I hope you enjoy. All right. Tonight, got a good friend of mine, Mr. Jason Burch, hailing from the great state of Mississippi. He's a lineman with TVA, and the reason I brought him on is to discuss the blue collar work ethic and the tradesmen of America. So, welcome on here, man. Thank you.
Man, I appreciate you having me on tonight. Yeah, I appreciate you also shining the light on the trades industry. You had that podcast with your buddy a couple weeks ago, and that's good for kids to see, the other opportunities that's available.
Absolutely. Yeah, man. And the thing is I know the entire idea is to, push your kids and go to college and I think that's a great thing in some regard, but the backbone of this country is built on people like yourself to keep it moving every single day. And I know a lot of linemen. My dad was a lineman back in the day, so I've always had a kind of a spot in my heart for him. So yeah, man, we appreciate it from all the good people of America. We appreciate it, bro.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's a good career path. I like for me growing up in Mississippi and stuff. It's just not something that's well known. And I have a degree in electrical background and stuff, and but it's just residential electrical. A lot of people from my area just didn't know just what's available out there. We come from a background of factory work. That's what my parents did their whole life, was furniture factory. That's what I did till I was 25. So it's one of them things where people don't know the opportunities that are actually out there. And I've just been blessed by the good Lord that I am where I am today.
Absolutely. Yeah, man. um, Jason, let let's start with how we met. Let's kick that off right there. Me and Jason met at the NWTF convention a few years ago, and we got to talking there in the booth and everything. And he told me he's from Mississippi. And for people that don't know, Mississippi has been my number one state to kill a turkey in for my entire life. And I told you, and you may not remember this, but man, my shotgun works as good in Mississippi as it does in Virginia. And you said, I know, that's what I'm saying. Why don't you come down? So I ended up coming down that spring, ended up killing a bird, and we've been buddies ever since.
Yep, that's right. Yeah, it was I remember that because you just I was brand new to turkey hunting. I had just got in it the last couple of years, and I didn't know anything about calling or anything like that. And you was doing your thing, and you was just as nice as could be at the convention. You was giving me tips and doing this, that, and I had been fortunate enough that I built power lines, so we get access to a lot of good and we were building a line through the national forest, and I had found some birds up there and stuff, and I told you, I was like, yeah, I know where some birds are, man, if you want to come down. And you took me up on it, and man, you was I thought I knew what hunting was until I went hunting with you, and you was as hard, or you was determined to kill a bird before you left Mississippi, and you
Yeah.
did. And if you remember, it came we we got on a bird
Yeah.
real the very first day. You looked at, yeah, you wasn't kidding. You know where the birds are. And we got on a bird real heavy that first day, and we just couldn't close the deal.
Yeah.
And you came back the next day. I met you out there, and it came a thunderstorm. I mean, it just
Monsoon.
monsoon. like, bro, I didn't come prepared for this. I do not want to buy a new $600 phone. I'm like, I'm getting to the truck. And you was like, you were prepared. And later that day, you sent me a picture of a soaking wet
Yeah,
Derek Cone, soaking wet bird, Mississippi bird. So yeah, I was very intrigued by your willingness to get after it the way you were, and your ability to call and stuff. I was blown away. So yeah, it was fun hunting with you and like that. But yeah, it was just crazy how people meet.
it is, man. God will put you, it'll, you follow your passion, man. He'll put you in some wild circles, man. You'll meet
That's
some of
right.
the coolest people. I've met you being top tier for me, man. I have met some of the best people in the world traveling and hunting, man. And I'll forever be grateful for that. We had a great time down there, and that was man, that I'll never forget. We were sitting there, and I looked up at the sky and I was like, man, it don't look good. And I looked back at you and you said, hey man, I got to roll. And I was like, what? You said, I ain't losing it, because you just had like burn a phone up or something.
Yeah, just lost one.
You was like, I'm not losing another phone. And I was like, okay. And you took off out of there. And I ended up killing that bird in the middle of that monsoon. Like, it was the wildest thing. He gobbled like 60 yards from me, and I could see him gobble, and I couldn't hear him because it was raining so hard. I had soaked all the way through my boxer. It was my boots when I got back, dude, they were just was freaking wet. But yeah, man, I mean, uh, I was really blessed to have met you and form a friendship, and it has been and we've stayed in touch, man, and it's been an awesome friendship, man. I've been thankful for that.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, it's been great. You've been able to send me some calls and stuff, and my turkey hunting buddy that got me into turkey hunting. That we go on all of our trips. That I go on all of my trips with. Man, he loves your calls. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
like, man, you can get your buddy to send us some more calls. And so it's just crazy how circles like that just form. And uh because now that's your calls are his go-to calls.
Yeah.
you know so it's pretty.
Yeah, man, it's it's awesome, man. You call me up every spring and you're like, just send me X dollars amount. And I'm like, okay, so I go in there and I pull them out, and you always find, like you always give them away, man. I mean, and I'll forever be thankful for that, man. So I want to just personally thank you face to face for that.
Man, yeah, it's good. But I mean, you're good at what you do. And like I said, your calls, I was talking about your calls today at work. We were pulling wire at work today. And me and one of my foremen were sitting there working on the calls and stuff, because our season opens up youth season opens up 6 days for me.
Yeah, that's
So,
right.
I got my boy ramped up and stuff. So I've been working on my calls and stuff. And I was talking about your calls today. I was bragging about your calls and stuff. So yeah,
You,
it's
you the man. You the man. But
uh,
let's transition over into the lineman career, man. How does a young person get into that line of work?
so it there's multitude, a bunch of different ways to get into the career. But what the path that I took is that I found a company, a utility company that offered an apprenticeship, and I applied for the apprenticeship, went through their 10-week training, and started as a 1A apprentice and just did their 4-year apprenticeship. There's a bunch of different ways through the union, through local co-ops, and things like that you can get into it. So, the most popular way, I think, if you was to go out there and take a survey, would be going through like an accredited union apprenticeship, which is like CellCat for the southern states.
Um,
And So there's like 5 different versions of that. And what you do is you just go apply, you go through the hall, and they basically send you where the work is as you
Okay.
work the apprenticeship program. You know, for me, I was with the same company the whole time because I went through a company that offered an accredited apprenticeship. But there's other co-ops out there that have their own version of apprenticeships. They'll go off how many hours you have and things like that. So every company does it differently. Like the local co-op here, they'll start you out as a tree trimmer, and then when they get a spot open as a lineman apprentice, you'll move over there as a lineman apprentice.
Gotcha.
And the difference between what I do, I'm kind of like your buddy that you had on last couple weeks ago. Is I'm a transmission lineman where we travel around and build new transmission power lines, which is the big power lines, the big towers and stuff, the stuff that feeds the co-ops.
That's
You
right.
know,
That's
you know,
what's
so
coming. Jason, correct me if I'm wrong. That's what's coming from the dam or whatever the power source is. That's what's coming, and then y'all step it down and then drop it in commercial, residential, whatever you need.
yeah, that's correct. So it'll come from the power supply, whatever that might be, nuclear plant, power dam, the dam on the river, and we deliver it to a co-op to their substation. They transition it from 161 down to like usually like 13 kV or whatever it might
Right.
be as they deliver it to the house. And then, you know, those are distribution linemen, which, there's, we're all linemen, but it's just 2 different spectrums of we do
Yep.
big heavy things, and they deal with the voltage that we deal with on transmission side is like 500 kV, 161 kV, 69 kV. There's some like in our system, that's what we deal with. There's 230 kV and stuff out there. The difference is most of the time that stuff is dead when we work on it. A distribution lineman, they're working with like 13 kV or
Right.
24 kV, whatever it is, but most of the time that stuff's still hot when they're working on it.
Right.
You know, the dangers are in our career is big heavy stuff, rigging and things that can kill you because you rig wrong, and things like that. That's going to
Yep.
beat you up. And the dangers in their field is you're within inches of death or
Yep.
losing a limb because you got
There's some
across.
hot.
Yeah, but I mean they both have their place. You know what I'm saying, and they're both
That's right.
dangerous jobs, but it's there's if you go through a cell cap program like I was talking about, like through the union,
Mm-hmm.
both, that's the benefit of going through something like that is you get both spectrums. You do transmission for a little bit and you do distribution for a little bit before you're allowed to talk about,
Right.
and I say a program like that's the best program out there because you could
Awesome.
go a transmission company or you could go work for a co-op, you know.
So, what when you say KB, for anyone listening, what does KB stand for?
Yeah, so like kilovolt, kilowatt voltage, so like
KV. You said KV. I thought you said KB. Okay.
yeah, so like 161,000 volts is what that is. So
Gotcha.
like our
So
100 500 kV.
KV. Okay. I thought you were saying KB. Okay. Let me ask you this, man. For a young person, say coming out of high school, what do you think about lineman schools?
All right, so a lot of old school guys are going to tell you they're a waste of time,
Okay.
but from someone that's on the inside, and I'm involved in our training, I'm involved in our hiring process. I'm a general foreman. So I got 4 crews that work for me, and I'm highly involved in our hiring process. And I can tell you this for 1,000% fact: if there's 100 kids that apply for our job at our company, 50 of them have climbing school and 50 of them don't. The 50 that's got the climbing school is getting the invite to the interview. The other 50 are not, you know.
Gotcha.
So, like I said, used to, you could just do the process like I was telling you. Find you a co-op that's hiring, find a company that's hiring, and go apply and work your way through like that. Now, even co-ops are requiring you to have some type of climbing school prior to you coming and applying for that job. And the reason I think it's valuable is, like a company like us, if we hire you on and you go down there for that 10-week climbing, our 10-week climbing school, you're already an employee, but then
Right.
you get down, drop out. Well, we've spent all that money hiring you
Training
on.
you. Yep.
You know, you're 6, 7 weeks in, you drop out because you didn't have enough grit to finish the school. Well, if we see that you've already put yourself through a 10 to 15 week climbing school, we already know that you the grit. We know that you have the grit and what it takes to do that.
So
So
not to interrupt you, Jason. So when he talks about grit, we're gonna have to cut this episode shorter than all my other ones because he has to get up at what 3:30 in the morning.
yeah,
3:30 because he has to go work. So when he's talking about grit, that's what he's talking about. He's got to get up. He has to adjust his schedule, his life around this. And for anybody that's listening, this is a wonderful career, and anybody that's in it will tell you they love their job. Absolutely love it.
yeah,
Jason, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but that was just something I had to put in there because
yeah.
you was
Oh,
talking about grit.
yeah. That's the thing, is that, like, when I went through that 10 weeks of climbing school, it's by far the hardest thing that I ever done. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
Right.
we got come from the military, and they say, and they're not Navy SEALs or nothing like that, but they come in and be like, man, that's, those 12 weeks of climbing school or whatever is about the hardest thing I ever done. I mean, I still have scars on my shins from where we climbed so much, uh, when we were climbing the poles, seeing who had the ability to stick with it. See, because for what we do at TVA is that we'll invite you down before you're an employee, invite you down for what we call four days of hell, and they basically climb you until you drop. And the ones that are standing at the end of that are usually invited for an interview. And I remember when I showed up for this is going close to 17 years ago. There was like 60 of us there, and by the end of those 4 days, there was 13 of us, and all 13 of us got in, basically sealed a job. And then we had
That's
to go.
awesome.
Then we had to go for another 10 weeks of nothing but climbing and kind of learning what we was going to do in the field. It's not near like it used to be, because now we use bucket trucks a lot and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah.
But we still use that same testing to see who has the grip, because there's times where if a storm comes through, we might be working 36, 48 hours in a row without a break. And you got to have grit to be able to do that.
That's
And,
right.
know, it's one of them things. It's a good career. It's very rewarding, because if people are without power, you're the one that's putting the power back on. You know, so it makes you feel good. I mean, there's been times where I've been called out on a storm and the hospital didn't have power, and they're like, "You got to get the power back on." You know, so that makes you feel good when you know that they're relying on you and you're willing to do whatever it takes to get the power back on.
That's
You know,
awesome, man. Absolutely, man. We had talked, me and you, I think last time I was down there, we talked about this. Can you go into the helicopter group that you
yeah,
got on the
yeah,
towers?
yeah. So we have our own helicopter group within inside TVA, and I've done transfer and stuff like that. But now we have a dedicated crew. Before we had a dedicated crew, just linemen like myself. would do the work. We would transfer on to the towers and stuff. But now we have a dedicated crew that's qualified to do bench work and stuff like that. And that's fun too, and that's rewarding. That's it it's definitely different. It's a rush. You stepping off the side of a helicopter onto the top of a
Yeah.
200, while it's just sitting there hovering. It's definitely different. But
Yeah.
you know, talking about stuff like that, there's a bunch of different paths to do what you can start as a telecom lineman, become a distribution lineman, transmission lineman, um and they all have their part, you know um but the thing about being a lineman and having the grit and stuff is that you'll have a lot of people try to pat themselves on the back, like, and I'm not knocking nurses, but during COVID, you had a lot of nurses like, oh, we're heroes and stuff. You'll have some linemen that do that too, but 1,000%, there's not a lineman out there that don't do it because of the money.
That's right.
That's the truth. I mean, the money's really good. I know guys that make 100,000, and I know guys that make 500,000. And I mean, that's doc. When you start talking about $500,000, that's doctor money. You know,
That's big money. Yeah.
yeah, basically uneducated rednecks making that money. Uh,
But you know what though, Jason? And this is why I've started this mini series. I got a whole list of guys. You were at the top. I couldn't get you on because of scheduling conflicts first, but this is for anybody listening. The world takes some hard men to make it turn. That's just the way it works. And when your power goes off or your Wi-Fi goes off or whatever, somebody has to go in the nasty, and it's always the nastiest conditions to go and make things right again. And I think that there is not near enough conversation about those people in this world. And that's why I've started this.
yeah,
You know, you take somebody, and if anybody is wondering what a helicopter, when Jason's talking about a helicopter crew, go on YouTube and type that in. You'll see it. They come in. They're suspended. They're not on a helicopter. They're suspended under a helicopter. They ease up to the tower. They ease off onto the tower, lock in, and they start working. And more power to them guys. They're cowboys, man. And I wish nothing but the best for y'all. Because you work in some harsh conditions, hot, cold, wet, snow, it doesn't matter. And when
right.
they call you out, so when he's talking about grit, he's talking about the people that are willing to go and do the things that most people are not willing to do.
That's right. Because you're working at extreme height. Like, well, in my line of work, you're working at in extreme heights. 100 foot and above. You know, a distribution lineman, like I said, it's a different thing. They're usually 50 foot off the ground, but they're also working with the danger of being electrocuted. If they're not.
Absolutely.
I know a lot of distribution linemen that's either lost their life or they had a hand blown off, you know, or something along those lines. And I mean, we had a death in our group a couple years ago where the guy fell off the tower. You know, so it's one of them things where it's real. It used to be one of the highest ranked, what do you call it? Most dangerous jobs in the world. But it's
Absolutely.
not as bad anymore because there's a lot of safe things in place. Like when I came through, we would free climb. You just climb to where you got where you were going. If we were working on a ladder, you climb, you get on the ladder, then you would safety off. You'd be dangling, you know, above 100 foot off the ground, 150 foot off the ground, and then you would safety off. But now we've got a lot of things in place where you're not allowed to climb unless you're tied off the whole time.
Right.
which is good. I mean, it's created a different breed of people. But I mean, you got
Yeah.
people that's in my era and before me that, man, the my linemen, which we call, we say our my linemen, those are the people that you came up under. My
Yeah.
linemen were a different breed of people. You
Tough.
know,
Tough.
my guys say, "Man, you're so hard on us sometimes, or you're hard or you're cold hearted." Is because that's unfortunately what brought me up. And
Yep.
I'm not as bad as those guys were. Um, this it's a different, as your buddy would tell you, the last time your buddy that works the pipeline. I
Hmm.
mean, it's a different people that work out there on the road, man.
It's a different breed, man.
Yes, it's just a completely different breed of people. But it's one of them things where like when you go out there on the road, you're away from your family, you know, you're living with your brothers, you're living.
Yep.
I have my buddy, and that's all me and him did everything together. I mean, we were normally I work like 11 on 3 off schedule. So I'm gone 11 days, home 3 days. Um, there's been times where I've been gone a month at a time. The other guy that you was talking to, the guy that works pipeline, just because of where I'm at, I'm in one area. I'm home. I'm
Yep.
able. There's other like he's a pipeliner. Other linemen, when they go out west and work,
They're
they're gone.
gone. That's right.
Guys that I was saying that make $500,000 a year, they're gone 12 months out of the year.
Yep.
They don't have,
Yep.
they don't have a life. And I have 2 kids and a wife, and it makes it, even just being gone 2 weeks at a time makes it hard sometimes. You know what I'm saying? So you got
Absolutely.
a really good support system at home, like a wife. I got a stay at home wife, and she does everything while I'm gone. So
Yep.
she keeps the house and everything going while I'm gone. So if it's one of them things that you can still get into this career and have a good family life, I got a great family life. And you can get in this career and go get on a co-op. You're not going to make as much money, but you're going to have a really good career, and you're going to be home every night. Or you can go and give a good chunk of your life away and retire by the time you're 35. You know,
Right.
it's all in perspective of what you want. You know,
That's right.
so there's a bunch of different career paths out there for this kind of work, but one thing that's consistent in all of it, you got to be willing to. I mean, I know guys that work at co-ops and they get called out in the middle of the night. They get called out when ball games are going on, whatever it is. You got to be willing to make sacrifices. Period.
Period.
Fam- Family sacrifices. Time with hunting, all of it. You got to be willing to make sacrifices, or you'll never make it in this career.
And I tell you what, man, when I was coming down there, like I knew because springtime is a very it's a very weird year time of the year for linemen because you don't know, especially down your way, tornadoes, you got hurricanes, you got all kinds of wild stuff going on. And it was funny, like we would talk, and I was like, I'm gonna be down there at this time, because we're hunting national forest. For anybody listening, we're hunting national forest, this we're not hunting like, private land together or nothing. So when he it gets a call or if he, is scheduled to go out or whatever, it is he has to go, so it was just kind of like, hey, I'll meet you here at this gate or whatever. And I just, man, I have the utmost respect for that because we live in a world, Jason, and I'm sure you're going to agree with this, but we live in a world of mediocrity where you got people that they're not willing to go the extra mile and do that. And for somebody, I don't know if anybody has ever put a belt on and put hooks on and climb the pole. It is not easy, much less climbing a tower, much less getting off of a helicopter, which I've never done. But I can assume that it is not easy work and you're in, but I don't want to push anybody away from it because it is,
No,
I have a lot of friends that are linemen. Jason is included in that. It's a good line of work and you're going to make a pile of money. And you're going to see if, depending on where you're at, who you're working with, like you're saying, distribution or transmission, you get to travel a lot and see a lot of different things. But, Jason has formed a phenomenal life. Just built a house, right?
yeah, that's right. Yep, yep.
Yeah.
So,
Are you in the house right now?
yep, in the house right now. Yep.
That's what I
So
thought, man. Hey, congrats, man.
I appreciate it. Yeah, it was a long time coming. So it's one of them things that you know, you cut a career path. We've been living in the camper for 2 years,
Yep.
and families traveled with me as I worked and stuff, and they've just lived on the road with me. So they're pretty ecstatic to be in the house. But like you said, it's you for sure. No matter what path you choose, you're not going to find a better career than as far as reward and money as what alignment is. And I mean, it's
Right.
just, I mean, co-op lineman or um transmission lineman. Every one of them I know make well over $100,000 a year. You know, and you just cannot do that with well, here in the South especially, you're not going to find a job that pays that kind of money unless you're a lawyer or you spend a lot of time in school.
Right.
I encourage everybody to get into some type of trade. You know,
Absolutely.
uh,
Absolutely.
I'm also a residential electrician. I'm a residential electrician by I got a degree in that, but I'm licensed in that field too. And even that, even doing that is, I would argue, better than going to college for something that you're going to make 60, $70,000 a year at. You know, and
And it's a family, right? I mean, when you're out there and you got that crew with you, that's your brothers. I
that's
mean,
it.
it is a family.
You're going to eat. You're eating breakfast, lunch, and most of the time dinner with those guys. Your room. When I came up, it's not like this now as much, and a lot of guys have campers. I've had a camper for the last several years, but when I came up, me and two other guys, for sure, me and one other guy, but a lot of times me and two other guys would be splitting a room because of the per diem. We was trying to save as much money as we
Yeah.
could,
That's right.
so we were close. I mean, we were really, really tight, and it's a brotherhood, just like the military. I mean, you're spending all your time together.
Right.
You're relying on each other to do your work safe, to keep each other safe. So it's a really rewarding career. I encourage it. Look, I got several kids that's working for me right now that's 18, 19, 20 years old that I've brought on as groundmen to try to get them into the trade, you know, and it is, I tell them all the time that you're not going to find a better career than, in my opinion, being a lineman is the best career. But I mean,
Absolutely.
I agree that, your buddy that's working on the pipeline, it's a system. And without him, we wouldn't get the fuel to the power plants. Without the people that work at the power plants, the system wouldn't run. Without us delivering the power to the co-ops, the co-ops wouldn't run. Without the co-ops delivering the power to the houses wouldn't run.
And without the electricians, you don't get the
Yeah,
houses wired.
that's it. So
It's a system, man. And I think um I didn't mean to cut you off there, but I think that America as a whole has forgotten that 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 structure. I think that well, I think people don't understand how it works for the most
Yeah.
part. And that's why I wanted to do this, man. Um, Jason, we're running low on time. I know you got to get into bed, man. Um, which just speaks, volumes to what y'all do in the first place. But I'm gonna have you back on, man.
Well, I really appreciate you having me on, man. And like I said, I'll be honored to come back and talk more in depth about actually how the system works. I've delved, I've dove deep into it and stuff. I know a lot about how that system actually works, and I would love to talk about, how it all works in unity and without the very lowest person at the end of the totem pole to the top person, it just wouldn't flow, the way that it needs to flow. And, I'm not going to get political right now, but I really think we got some times coming and people are going to have a rude awakening coming.
That's right.
And if they're not
Yep.
prepared to live without that system, once the system's broken, I believe it's coming to where it's going to be broken. And when it does, I think a lot of people's
Bad.
up call.
1000%. Yeah, man. Yeah, it is very interesting to me to talk to people and working in the chemical industry for 10 years and people are trying to get rid of plastic and like we go out there and I'm like, do you see them lines up there? They're like,
Yeah,
yeah, your telecom communications. I'm like, that's all plastic. Like, it's some form of plastic, and just I don't think people quite understand. And we can go deep into this next time, man, when you have more time. But man, for anybody listening, you can reach out to Jason Burch. He's on Facebook under Jason Burch. I'll put his name in the bio under this video. But Jason, man, I appreciate it a bunch, brother. And I know 6 days is about to get right for y'all down there.
it's about to happen. They've been strutting since January 1st down here. It's the craziest,
Woo! That's what I'm talking about.
but we're pumped up. Yeah,
Yeah. Well, hey, you better send me some pictures, dog.
I will. First, March 8th, I'm gonna send in a picture of my son holding a turkey.
That's what I'm talking about. Hey, man, if you ever need anything, just give me a shout. You know that.
All right, brother. I appreciate you.
Hey, man, thank you very much, buddy. I'll talk to you later, man.
All right, have a good one.
See you, buddy.